Incredible twist, single dad invited to excess wedding reveals amazing truth that left her in tears. The moment Jake ripped open the elegant envelope, his heart did a flip. A wedding invitation? From Sarah? It felt like a punch to the gut. Memories of late-night arguments and broken dreams rushed back, intertwining with the bittersweet reality he faced raising their spirited 8-year-old daughter, Emma, alone. The embossed gold lettering burned against the backdrop of his everyday struggles as a mechanic, splitting his worn hands between two jobs to give Emma everything she needed. Emma needed him. And he had to keep pushing through. Watching her, full of light and energy, Jake could feel a deep sense of pride swell in his chest that momentarily chased the shadows away. But now, this wedding invitation overshadowed those moments. Sarah had moved on, to someone who seemed to have it all. A prosperous entrepreneur, someone who could be the man he dreamt of becoming. Jake's chest tightened. What had he amounted to? Was he simply the shadow of the man he used to be? As the wedding day approached, Jake watched Emma's excitement bubble over. She twirled around their modest living room, her laughter echoing through the walls, filling the empty spaces with light. Yet, as he looked at her, dread loomed over him. Would she see the pain hidden behind his smile when he put that tuxedo on? The wedding day finally dawned. The community buzzed with charm and warmth, everything sharply contrasting his internal struggle. At the reception, laughter flowed like the wine. But Jake's heart sank when Sarah stood up to speak. With each word, emotions flooded his mind. Instead of a toast, she shared memories of their life, highlighting the dedication he had poured into raising Emma. Her voice, tinged with longing, made Jake's throat tighten. Regret was palpable in her words. Maybe their love wasn't so broken after all. In that moment, courage flooded through him. This was his chance. Just as he stood up to speak, a moment that felt like the world rested on his shoulders, a sudden misunderstanding erupted nearby. Voices escalated, spilling the heartbreak of their past into the air, thickening the atmosphere with anger and confusion. Yet, amid the chaos, Jake clung to the one thought that anchored him: he was a father first. With determination returning, he braced himself to address Sarah, the woman he once loved. He felt the eyes of the crowd boring into him. They were joining his struggle, anticipating, hoping for a resolution. Before he could find the words, however, the world seemed to hold its breath. Would he speak out about how their journey shaped him? Would he turn this pain into something profound? Or would he slip back into the shadows of regret, leaving both of them tangled in the past? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Looking around at families celebrating love, Jake felt the weight press down harder. He took a breath. Emma stood nearby, her innocent gaze holding his heart captive. What would he say? Would this moment transform everything or become just another regret? The moment stretched like a rubber band, ready to snap. With all eyes on him, Jake stood trembling. This was a moment not just for him, but for Sarah too. Would it be a bridge to reconnect their fractured family? Or would it disappear into silence? Jake's heart raced as he remembered the nights spent dreaming of a future that never materialized. This was his moment, one he had rehearsed in his mind countless times. But the crowd's curious gazes felt like heavy weights, dragging him back into his doubts. What if he stumbled over his words, exposing the cracks in his soul? Placing a steady hand on the polished table, he felt the gentle warmth of the wood beneath his fingertips. It gave him a brief sense of comfort. Deep breath. He thought of Emma, her bright eyes shining like stars when they walked through the park or curled up together reading stories on the couch. He often thought, if it weren't for her, he would have completely lost his way. Somehow, she kept him anchored, even in moments when life felt overwhelmingly chaotic. Sarah, he finally began, his voice a little stronger than he felt, I remember the laughter we shared, the dreams we built. A collective hush swept through the crowd, and he felt their hopes rising alongside him. I've made mistakes, but I never stopped being grateful for what we had. You showed me love and kindness in ways I struggled to understand. Sarah's eyes softened, shimmering with unspoken emotions. She was fighting to hold back tears, just as he was. For a fleeting instant, he thought he saw the flicker of a memory cross her face, the same joyful moments they had shared before everything crumbled. But they were still standing on separate paths, tethered together by their daughter yet divided by the weight of their history, and then, he saw her, his tiny muse, Emma, scampering closer, her small form standing tall against the looming shadows of adult misunderstandings. She distractingly tugged at his sleeve, whispering a barely audible, "Dad, go on." Her encouragement ignited something deep within him. With her little voice lingering in his ear, he found the courage to share his truth. "I've learned to be a dad through all this, to learn how to love without limits, to keep fighting for what's important. Emma is everything to me. I hope, one day, she'll see that love also means letting go, even when it stings." His heart thudded in his chest, words tumbling out in a rush. He risked a glance at Emma, her eyes wide and filled with hope. This was her chance to see her parents possibly come together again, or at least reconcile their past for her sake. Jake's gaze reverted back to Sarah, uncertainty lingering in the air. "Maybe we can find a way back to a friendship," he ventured, his voice softer now. "For Emma. For us." The room buzzed. He felt the crowd holding its breath. They waited, collectively anticipating the response of the woman who had once been his partner, breaking the silence that had lingered so long. But just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, a loud crash echoed from the back of the reception hall. Chairs fell, and gasps spread like wildfire among the guests. Jake turned, adrenaline surging again. What now? The unexpected storm of uncertainty washed over them all. Would Sarah acknowledge the vulnerability he had just laid bare? Would this crash of chaos shatter everything he had just built up? As confusion filled the air, he could only wonder how they would navigate this new turbulence together, or apart. Jake's gaze darted to the back of the hall, heart racing as panic spread through the crowd. The crash had come from a large table that had tipped over, drinks spilling and laughter scattering like leaves caught in a windstorm. He could see a few guests scrambling to their feet, their expressions a mix of shock and concern. "Is everyone okay?" A voice called out from the back, struggling to be heard over the murmurs. The atmosphere shifted sharply, the promise of an open dialogue now overshadowed by this unexpected chaos. Jake's stomach twisted. He'd finally taken a step toward something meaningful, and now this? Just moments before, he had taken a leap of faith. Now, doubt crept in like a thief in the night. He turned back toward Sarah, searching her face for any glimmer of response. Her expression shifted between worry and embarrassment. He could almost feel the energy from the crowd, a colorful wave of anticipation, confusion, and perhaps even hope, flickering as sensibly as candlelight in a breeze. They all knew the stakes, but then Emma tugged at his sleeve again, wide-eyed but unfazed. "Is that a party, Daddy?" she whispered, her little finger pointing at the overturned table, the spilled drinks glistening under the muted lights. Jake felt a chuckle bubble up, an unexpected relief amidst the chaos. "Not quite the kind of party I had in mind," he replied, squeezing her hand. Her innocence, her unwavering belief in his ability to fix things, instantly brought him back to center. Sarah's lips creased into a subtle smile, the tension in the air easing a fraction. "I guess we should probably check on everyone." Her voice was soft, almost shy. "Yeah, let us go." Jake nodded, feeling the warmth of her presence beside him, however fragile. Together, they weaved through the guests, hearts still heavy with unsaid words but buoyed by the current of shared purpose. Emma squeezed his hand tighter, her trust inspiring him to cup the small of her back as they approached the commotion. When they reached the wreckage, some guests were already helping others up, wiping away drink stains, laughter mixing again with concern in an uneasy truce. Jake felt the enormity of Sarah standing beside him, both of them deep in this uncharted territory. "Are you all right?" Sarah asked a woman kneeling down to pick up food that had scattered, her voice filled with kindness. The woman nodded, brushing her skirt, a grateful smile spreading across her face. In that small gesture, an unspoken bond seemed to form. One fragile moment of connection that flickered between Jake and Sarah, reassembling tiny pieces of their past like fragments of broken glass beginning to shine again. While chaos faded slowly and laughter returned, Jake couldn't shake the weight of what he wanted to say. He turned to Sarah, preparing to speak again, but suddenly the loud clattering of chairs interrupted their tentative moment, bringing his focus back to the scene. Emma, undeterred, made a beeline for the now abandoned dance floor, her giggles ringing clear above the chatter. "Dad! Come dance with me!" she called out, innocence and joy spilling over, pulling at the corners of his heart. Jake looked from Emma to Sarah, seeing a flicker of warmth in her eyes again, nostalgia mixing with hope. "Let us make this moment count," he thought. But just then, a voice broke through the crowd like a clap of thunder, sending chills down his spine. "Jake! I need to talk to you." It was Mark, the last person Jake expected to see today. His eyes wide, filled with urgency, he navigated through the crowd, and Jake couldn't help but feel a foreboding sense of history rushing back to haunt him. What could Mark possibly have to say that would shift everything yet again? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. The delicate thread connecting him to Sarah, while tantalizingly close, seemed to fray at Mark's arrival, leaving him wondering where this twist would lead their evening in the future. Jake's heart raced as Mark reached him, his expression taut and frantic. "What's wrong, Mark?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady, though a sense of dread gripped his chest. In the back of his mind, he felt Sarah's gaze on him, her unspoken concern lacing the air around them. "It's about your mom." She was in an accident," Mark blurted out, eyes darting as if he were afraid someone might overhear. The room around Jake seemed to shrink, the laughter dimming to a distant echo. He barely registered the vibrant colors of the celebration. All he could hear was a pounding in his ears. "What?" Jake's voice cracked. He couldn't process the words. "His mother? Is she okay?" Mark shook his head, pausing for just a second longer, as if he were hesitant to break the news fully. "She's in the hospital. I came as soon as I heard. I thought you should know." Time spun away from him, each second dragging down like a stone in water. The laughter of Emma on the dance floor felt miles away, obscured by the heavy fog of anxiety forming in his mind. Mark's face flickered with regret, his own burdens blending with Jake's. "I need to go," Jake finally whispered, urgency taking over his limbs. Setting his gaze back to Sarah, he watched her demeanor shift from confusion to concern, realization hitting her like a wave. Emma, blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing, twirled alone, lost in her world. "Dad!" Emma called again, cheeks flushed from dancing, laughter still spilling from her lips. The sound stabbed at Jake's heart, a painful reminder of what was at stake. "Go, Jake." "I can handle things here," Sarah urged, touching his arm gently, her eyes soft yet resolute. Jake appreciated her calmness, but he felt torn between that warmth and the urgency surging through his veins. He nodded, heart clenched, the weight of unspoken promises hanging in the air. "I'll be back, I promise," he assured her, meeting her gaze one last time before slipping away from the celebration, Mark falling into step beside him as they pushed through the throng of partygoers. Outside, Jake gulped in the cool night air. Each inhalation fought against the panic rising within him, urging him to focus, to think clearly. He had to understand what had happened. Why hadn't he heard from his mom sooner? "Did you call the hospital?" he asked Mark, shaking off the worry clinging to him like a shadow. "I'm installing that info now," Mark replied, keeping pace. There was something in Mark's tone, a mix of determination and regret that Jake recognized all too well. "I should have been there for her," Jake murmured, shame creeping up. God, if anything happens. His words drifted off, leaving the unthinkable hanging between them. "Hey, you're doing the best you can," Mark said, his voice firm. "Just focus on your mom. I'll take care of things at the party." Jake fought against the urge to collapse under the weight of his racing thoughts. "If she needs me, she'll need you, but right now, getting to her is all that matters," Mark insisted. They rushed to the car, the world around them a blur. As they sped away from the hall, Jake felt the spiral of uncertainty. He should be happy, basking in the golden moments with Sarah and Emma, and yet he felt suspended in a storm. What awaited him at the hospital? Would he find a mother in pain, or perhaps something worse? The thought twisted his gut. Whatever it was, it felt like the other shoe had dropped. "Just be ready for anything," Mark warned, his expression serious. "Life can change in an instant. And in that moment, Jake realized nothing would ever be the same again. He pulled his phone out, desperately wanting to hear his mom's voice. Just one message, one sign that she was alright. But the call went straight to voicemail, each beep perforating his hope like a balloon slowly deflating. Jake? Mark's voice broke through his thoughts, drawing him back to the present. You okay? Yeah, just worried. Jake's voice was small, but he felt a flicker of resolve starting to build. I have to be strong for her. I can't break now. Exactly. Just remember, one step at a time. We'll figure it out. As the hospital loomed ahead, Jake braced himself. Was he really ready to face whatever awaited him? The question hung in his mind, heavy but undeniable, as they pulled into the lot, uncertainty pressing down on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. He took a deep breath. What truth was waiting on the other side of those doors? The sterile glow of fluorescent lights greeted Jake as he and Mark rushed through the sliding glass doors of the hospital. The shocking buzz of muffled voices and beeping machines surrounded them, a symphony of worry and care. Each footstep felt heavier than the last, and Jake's heart hammered in rhythm to the chaos around him. Where do we go? Jake's voice wavered, tension swirling in his gut. Mark shot him a look, reassuring yet urgent, and jerked his thumb towards the information desk. Let us start there. Jake followed close behind, scanning the anxious faces in the waiting area. A woman cradled a toddler, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen, while a couple near the corner sat in silence, hands intertwined as they waited for news. The sight filled him with dread, the reality of the hospital looming larger with every passing moment. We need to know what room she is in, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Mark nodded, stepping forward to the desk. After a moment that felt like an eternity, they received the information. Room 312. The words echoed in Jake's mind, each syllable twisting tighter around his heart. Okay, let us go, Mark urged, leading the way down the long sterile hallway. Jake's breathing quickened. What awaited them behind that door? Was his mom truly in pain, fighting for every breath, or would she be in a state he wasn't ready for? They reached the door. Jake paused, his hand hovering over the handle. What if I can't handle it? Panic surged through him, chilling him to the bone. Mark turned, concern etched on his face. You've handled tough things before, Jake. You don't have to be perfect. Just be there for her. Taking a deep breath, Jake steeled himself and opened the door. The sight that met him was a tidal wave of emotion. His mother, lying in the bed, looked fragile but alive. Machines beeped steadily beside her, the rhythmic sound both comforting and terrifying. Mom! Jake rushed to her side, grasping her hand, feeling the familiar warmth beneath his fingertips. It was a small comfort against the hard reality of the situation. Her eyes fluttered open, then focused, resting on him. Jake, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. You're here, I'm right here. Tears brimmed in his eyes as he squeezed her hand tighter. What happened? Are you okay? She attempted a smile, but it faded quickly. Just an accident. They're taking good care of me. Jake met her gaze, searching for the reassurance he desperately needed. But you'll be all right? They're helping you? Just a little banged up. She winced slightly, and Jake's heart sank. This was more than just a few bruises. The acknowledgement hung heavy in the room, nearly suffocating. What if you need something more? He fought against the rising tide of panic again. She reached up to brush a few strands of hair from her face, a gesture that reminded him of better times, of laughter and warmth. I'm going to be okay, sweetheart. But let us focus on one thing at a time. The silence thickened between them, an unspoken fear creeping in. What if okay wasn't enough? What if the follow-up news was worse than they could prepare for? Is there anything you want me to do? He asked, sensing the weight of additional burdens resting on her shoulders. I just want you to be here, that's enough, she whispered, and for a moment, joy flickered through the fear, a reminder of their bond, even amidst chaos. As they spoke, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the surface, something more was at play. The look in his mama's eyes spoke volumes of her struggle, moments lost unshared in the fearful void of silence. Just then, the door opened again, and a doctor stepped in, his expression unreadable. Jake's heart raced. This was the moment they had been waiting for, but what would the doctor reveal? Jake? Mark's voice turned to him, breaking his concentration. You ready for whatever news is coming? With a deep breath, Jake nodded. He had to be ready. What lay ahead could change everything. As the doctor cleared his throat, Jake felt the ground shift beneath him, bracing for the storm that was about to break. What truth awaited him behind the doctor's cautious gaze? The doctor stepped forward, adjusting his glasses, a deep breath filling the space with tension. Jake, I know this is a difficult time, and I want to speak to you and your mom about her condition. All eyes turned to the doctor, his neutrality stirring apprehension in Jake's gut. His mother squeezed Jake's hand tightly, and for a fleeting moment, he felt her strength. He clung to it, grounding himself against the whirlwind of uncertainty brewing in his mind. Your mother has sustained some significant injuries from the accident, the doctor said, his tone measured yet compassionate. We're managing her pain, but she will need a bit of time to recover. I can assure you, she is stable at the moment. Jake's heart accelerated. Stable. The word hung in the air, a small glimmer of hope amid the storm. But it came with heavy silences and questions that begged to be answered. What does that mean? How long before? Before she can go home? It could be a few days to a week, depending on her progress, the doctor replied, his gaze steady. But we'll be monitoring her constantly. Jake felt a whirlwind of emotions churn within him. Relief mingled with fear, and he realized he had only just begun to understand the gravity of the situation. The thought of his mother trapped in a hospital bed for days, separated from the life she led, made his chest tighten. Mark shifted nervously beside him. What if there are complications? He asked, his voice barely concealing his concern. The doctor hesitated, his expression shifting slightly. There is always a chance for complications with injuries like these. But we also have the best resources and staff here to help. Jake glanced at his mother, who was staring at the doctor, her eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. Mom, do you really believe you'll be okay? He asked, wanting her to reassure him, needing her litany of hope against the burden of his fear. She met his gaze, eyes filled with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. I have to believe that. You have to believe it too, she said softly, squeezing his hand again. It was a gesture of strength, a reminder of their bond even in darkness. Swallowing hard, Jake nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. What if her optimism was a mask for something darker? You're a fighter, the doctor said to her, a weak smile crossing his face. And we're going to do everything we can to help you. With a nod, he glanced back at Jake. You'll need to rally support for your mom as well. Being together during the recovery is crucial. The weight of his words hung in the air like a cloud of uncertainty. Jake's mind raced at the prospect of balancing visits, work, and emotional support. It felt daunting. Will she be in pain? Jake suddenly blurted out, chasing the anxiety that threatened to bubble over. Despite his earlier resolve, the fear of losing his mom loomed larger. The doctor maintained his professional demeanor. We will manage her pain as it arises. If you're ever in doubt, don't hesitate to ask the staff. We are all here to help. Okay, Jake couldn't shake the restless feeling in his stomach. As the doctor excused himself, leaving behind a hollow echo of medical terms and recommendations, Jake turned to Mark. What am I supposed to do now? Just be there, remember? That's what she needs most right now, Mark replied. Jake took a deep breath, glancing back at his mother, who wore a faint smile, trying to mask her own fear. The bond they shared pulsed like the rhythm of the machines surrounding her. He didn't know exactly how to be strong, but he would try. Suddenly, as he sat there lost in his thoughts, Jake noticed the corners of the room photos of other families and friends visiting their loved ones. But his heart plummeted when he realized he had no one else to summon except Mark. Was this his fight alone? Just then, the nurse returned with a warm smile, giving him hope for a brief moment. But behind that smile, she carried news: a survey of potential complications, and a question that would change everything. "Jake, can I talk to you for a moment?" With dread pooling in his stomach, Jake stood at her side, wondering if it was about more than just his mother's immediate care. What more did he need to prepare for? There it was, right on the tip of his tongue, a fear of the unknown greater than anything he'd faced before. Jake followed the nurse down a quiet corridor, his heart pounding in rhythm with his anxious thoughts. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a sterile glow around them. He glanced at her, searching for clues in her expression. Her smile had vanished, replaced by a look of concern that gnawed at him. "Just sit here, okay?" she said, motioning towards a small waiting area outside a private room. Jake complied, sinking into the awkward plastic seat. The antiseptic smell filled his nostrils, overpowering any comforting memories he had left of the space. "Your mother's doctors want to share some information that you need to know," she said gently, taking a seat across from him. "It's about her condition." The words ricocheted off the walls of his mind, each syllable a reminder of the reality he wished to escape. "What is it?" he managed, voice thick with fear. She took a deep breath, as if bracing herself for the emotions that would follow. "There are some internal injuries that they need to monitor closely. They've recommended a procedure to assess the damage. It's standard in cases like this, but it's also crucial." Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. "What kind of procedure?" His voice cracked, revealing the crack in his otherwise practiced control. "A scan, to see if there's any internal bleeding or damage," she explained, her tone steady yet soft. "They just want to be thorough. It could give them a clearer picture of her situation." "Will she be okay?" he asked, shocking himself at the desperation in his tone. The nurse paused, her eyes reflecting understanding. "I can't predict the future, Jake, but they're taking precautions." "That's a good thing." "Precautions?" The word tasted bitter on his tongue. He couldn't shake the feeling that the word was just a polite way of saying things might get worse. "Jake," her voice softened. "Your mom is strong, and she is surrounded by caring professionals. You need to believe in that." He nodded stiffly, but doubt hung like a dark cloud. I don't want to lose her." A deep silence filled the room, stretching into a moment of shared understanding. He pictured his mom's smile, her laughter filling their home. What would he do without that light? "Let us focus on the now, okay?" she said, breaking the silence. "Do you want me to help you get some updates from the doctors while you wait?" "Yeah, please." As they talked, distractions kept creeping back into Jake's mind. Every second ticking away felt like a thief stealing pieces of hope. He stared at the floor, lost in thought, when a voice interrupted his spiral. "Jake?" A familiar voice pierced through, shattering his racing thoughts. He looked up to see a nurse entering his mother's room, carrying a chart. She caught his eye, her expression serious. "You can come in now." The tightening in Jake's chest returned as he rose and walked towards the door, heart thudding. Inside, he found his mother lying quietly, the machines around her beeping with a rhythmic pulse. Her eyes fluttered open, and her gaze found his instantly. "Hey, sweetie," she whispered, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mom, the doctors want to talk," he said, and he hated how frail his voice sounded. He took her hand, feeling the coolness in her skin. A rush of emotions flooded through him: fear, love, helplessness. "Jake," she said, voice steady despite her condition. "I want you to know that no matter what happens, I love you so much." Tears brimmed in his eyes, and he fought against them. "I love you, too, Mom. And we're gonna get through this." Just then, the doctor stepped in, a serious look on his face. "We need to discuss the next steps for your mother," he said, not wasting any time. "Jake, I need your full attention." Jake's heart sank again as the doctor began outlining what was to come. The words were clinical and cold: what needed to happen, what could happen, and then, unexpectedly, something slipped into his mind. A realization that wrapped around his heart like a vice. What if this wasn't just about the here and now? What if what he learned today could change everything? His thoughts spiraled. "Wait, there's more?" he said aloud, questioning not just what the doctor was about to say, but everything he thought was certain before. The doctor looked up, a hint of surprise in his eyes, as if he was prepared to reveal more than Jake anticipated. "What do you mean by that?" he asked. As the doctor's expression shifted from surprise to curiosity, Jake felt a surge of determination swell within him. This was only the beginning, and he couldn't sit idly by. Was there a deeper truth waiting to be uncovered? What if the answers he sought meant more than just his mother's recovery? Jake took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Little did he know, this moment would lead him down a path he never saw coming. The doctor cleared his throat, an almost cautious gesture that set Jake's heart racing again. "What I meant, Jake, is that there's context to your mother's situation. It's more than just the injuries from the accident. We need to take a closer look at her overall health." Jake felt his pulse quicken. Context? What could be more significant than what had already put her in this bed? "What do you mean?" There was a flicker of hesitation in the doctor's eyes. "We need to discuss her previous medical history. There are indications that her body has endured more than just these recent injuries." He leaned in slightly, his voice measured. "What I'm saying is that we need to understand her health comprehensively before proceeding with anything." Jake's mind raced. His mother had always kept her health issues close to her chest. It was as if she were trying to protect him from worry, but here he was, desperate to know everything. He turned to her, searching her face for any hint of alarm. "Mom, what is he talking about? Is there something you haven't told me?" She looked away, her gaze drifting to the beeping machine beside her. "Jake, I didn't want to burden you." The word hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Jake felt a wave of anger bubbling inside him. "What do you mean? I'm already burdened. I'm here because I care about you. You shouldn't have to face anything alone." "Listen, Jake," she said gently, her voice barely above a whisper, "I want to protect you. That's what mothers do. But sometimes that means making tough choices. I thought I was making the right one." His frustration mixed with fear, and he took a step back, running a hand through his hair. The doctor's gaze shifted between them as he remained silent, respecting the moment between mother and son. "Protecting me from what?" Jake's voice was strained, the weight of uncertainty crushing him. "If there is something serious, don't I deserve to know?" She squeezed his hand, her grip weak yet firm. "I didn't want you to worry about things I could handle. But I realize now I should have told you everything." The doctor broke the silence. "Jake, I recommend we run some additional tests to ensure we have a full picture of your mother's health. It's crucial before we proceed." "Tests?" Jake's voice trembled as he looked between them. "What kind of tests? More scans? What are you looking for?" "Comprehensive blood work, imaging, a full assessment of any previous conditions if they exist." "Your mother's well-being depends on clarity," the doctor explained, his tone steady, but the reality of his words hung over them like a dark cloud. Jake's heart raced. His mother had always been his stronghold, the anchor in his life. What if there's something serious? The thought paralyzed him. "Jake, we have to face the truth, but we won't know anything until we test," the doctor replied, trying to instill calm. His mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I thought I'd have more time." The sorrow in her voice struck him deep. In that moment, he wished he could protect her as much as she tried to protect him. But he couldn't just stand by. He needed to take action. "Then let us get those tests done." "I want to know everything," Jake said firmly. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Before she could respond, there was a knock on the door. Another nurse entered with a thick folder, and Jake caught the exchange between the doctor and the new nurse, a quiet concern etched on their faces. "Excuse me," the doctor said, motioning them out, "I need a moment with the team." He turned back to Jake. "We'll take care of everything. I promise." Jake felt a mix of dread and determination. As the door shut behind them, it left him alone with his mother, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily in the air. "Mom, I'll be here every step of the way. Whatever comes, we're in this together, he said, his heart echoing his promise. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. Thank you, Jake. I should have leaned on you more, you're my everything. As they sat there, the world outside faded away. Jake's thoughts raced with questions he wasn't sure he wanted answered. His focus shifted to his mother. Would the truth bring them closer together, or would it shatter the last pieces of their fragile world? Just then, the door swung wide open, and a different doctor stepped in with urgency painted across his face. Jake, we have a serious matter to discuss about your mother's medical history, he said, the weight of his words falling heavily between them. Jake's heart dropped. What could it possibly be? He steeled himself for what was to come. Would the truth offer hope or just more heartbreak? Jake's breath caught in his throat as the doctor stepped closer, his demeanor shifting from professional calm to something heavier. I wouldn't bring this up if it weren't crucial, the doctor began, his voice laced with urgency. We recently received some information from her past medical records, and it's quite serious. Jake swallowed hard. What kind of information? He could feel the heat rising in his cheeks, fear beginning to coil in his stomach. Just tell me. The doctor took a breath and glanced back toward the door. The tension in the room thickened. Your mother has a history of chronic health issues that we weren't initially aware of. It could be a contributing factor to her current situation. Jake's pulse raced. Chronic? What does that mean? What are we talking about here? From what I've gathered, she was diagnosed with a heart condition several years ago. It was under control for some time, but those types of illnesses can evolve. Given the circumstances of her accident and the recent stress on her body, we need to act quickly. The news felt like a punch to the gut. He'd always seen his mother as invincible, the rock that held everything together. The idea that she had been living with such a burden, all while trying to shield him, shattered something deep inside him. Why wouldn't she tell me? Jake said, his voice straining as emotion surged. I could have helped her. I would have done anything to support her. It's common for patients with chronic conditions to hide their struggles, the doctor replied gently. They often fear becoming a burden. Your mother thought she could manage it on her own. She didn't want to worry you. Jake felt tears prick at his eyes. He fought against them, not wanting to break down right now. That's not fair. She shouldn't have faced this alone. How could she think that wouldn't hurt me more? Sometimes love manifests in complicated ways, the doctor said. But we have an opportunity to help her now. We need to discuss immediate steps. A wave of anger and frustration coursed through him, but it was intertwined with something deeper, a determination to take action. What do we need to do? Can we fix this? She's my everything, and I won't let her go without a fight. The doctor placed a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder. We'll conduct those tests we discussed, but we also need to monitor her closely for her heart condition. There might be medication that can help stabilize her. Jake nodded, determination settling in his chest. He had to put aside his fears for his mother's sake. Let's do it then. Whatever it takes. Outside the room, echoes of footsteps hurried past, but inside the small space, time seemed to stand still. He glanced back at his mother, who was looking from him to the doctor, concern etched on her face. What's happening, Jake? He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment push on his chest. Mom, we just learned some things. You weren't alone in this. We're going to face it together. The doctor has a plan. She blinked back tears, her expression a mix of relief and fear. I didn't want you to see me like this. Jake stepped closer. You don't have to be strong alone, Mom. We'll figure this out, I promise. As the doctor began to explain the next steps and the importance of the upcoming tests, Jake couldn't shake off the uneasiness pooling in his gut. What else was hidden beneath the surface? What else had been kept from him all this time? He glanced at her, a quiet resolve filling the air between them. She had faced so much alone, but no more. They would confront whatever lay ahead together. And with each tick of the clock, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises awaited them. Just then, unexpected voices erupted from the hallway. breaking through the silence of their world. "I thought I'd find you here." A familiar voice chimed in, bringing a sense of dread alongside a flicker of recognition. Jake turned to see a figure approaching, a ghost from his past he never thought he'd face in a moment like this. What could they possibly want at such an unsettling time? The moment Jake recognized Sarah standing in the doorway, his heart skipped a beat. Her face reflected surprise, fear, and a hint of warmth. The tender memories they had shared flooded back, the laughter, the hopes, the love. She stepped forward cautiously, eyes darting between him and his mother. "Jake!" But the moment hung heavy, her words lost among the chaos already swirling around him. "Sarah," he breathed, unsure of how to react. The shock of her presence blended with the urgency of the situation. "What are you doing here?" "I heard about the accident," her voice trembled slightly, compassion etching deeper lines on her face. "I came to see if you needed anything." Jake's mind raced. This moment felt surreal, like two worlds colliding, the joy and connection they had once shared and the reality of his mother's fragility. "I didn't expect to see you here," he replied, forcing a steady breath. I want to help, if I can." Sarah's gaze shifted to his mother, whose weakened form lay unnoticed. Is she okay?" Jake felt a protective instinct surge in him, an urge to keep Sarah at a distance. But he also sensed something genuine beneath her offer. "She is strong, but she needs support," he decided, not wanting to deny either of them the chance to help. "There's a lot we need to figure out." As he said this, he saw his mother look between them, registering their presence in the room. "Jake? Is everything all right?" she asked, voice still wavering. "Mom," he said softly, moving closer to her side. "This is Sarah. She came to check on you." "Hey," Sarah said gently, offering a small smile. "I'm so sorry to hear about what happened. I know this is difficult." His mother nodded slowly, a hint of recognition flickering in her eyes. "Thank you, Sarah. It's been overwhelming." As silence filled the room, Jake felt the weight of shared history wrap around them. Years of misunderstandings, frustrations, and unspoken words lingered tightly, but so did the glimmer of hope. Finally, after a long pause, his mother mustered her strength. "Jake, I'm glad you're here for me, and you too, Sarah," she added hesitantly. "I think we all need to be clear about some things." Jake's heart quickened, his mother's words trailing off like a flickering light. "Mom, whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said, squeezing her hand tightly. Sarah nodded, stepping closer, her presence calming both him and his mother. For the first time in ages, Jake sensed the boundaries melting, opening space for dialogue and healing. "Can we?" Sarah began, her voice steady now. "Can we talk about what we need? What's best for everyone involved?" His mother's eyes brightened, and with a deep breath, she whispered, "I want that too." It was as if the air crystallized with the richness of a fresh start. For the next hour, they navigated the murky waters of candid conversation. Jake felt barriers begin to crumble. What had once separated them didn't have to exist anymore. Together, they shared truths, fears, and hopes, knitting their fractured family back together with a kind of resilience they hadn't believed possible. "Do you remember the park?" Sarah asked, a sparkle in her eyes. "The one we used to take Emma to? That little bridge?" "We always ended up laughing at Emma's silly faces." Jake smiled at the memory. His mother leaned in, nostalgia mixing with their fresh resolve. "I remember. Let us not lose that light. We can find ways to create more joyful moments." When conversations surged and ebbed, they finally unwound their urgency into a shared commitment. Jake would work alongside Sarah to create a support circle for his mother as she healed, transforming the darkness they had faced into something radiant. As they made plans together, Jake felt weight lift from his shoulders, replaced by warmth and a renewed sense of family. Maybe, just maybe, their past was not solely a history of regret, but also a canvas for redemption. When he looked at Sarah, and then at his mother, he felt it, the essence of hope blooming anew, tinged with possibility. "Together, we'll face this," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We won't let fear define who we are." The three of them smiled, shared laughter ringing like music in the room, binding them in an invisible thread of trust and hope. They knew the road wouldn't be simple, but they faced it with a united spirit. Jake understood now that strength wasn't just a solo endeavor. It was something forged together. As they embraced the moment, surrounded by love, relief washed over Jake. For the first time, he felt truly free, no longer tethered by the past, but lifted by the promise of what lay ahead. And for that reason, he knew he could walk any path life had in store for him. Because in this new chapter, they weren't just a fractured family, they were building something whole, a future rooted in love and understanding. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, every click counts. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.